Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. It's actually a pretty decent sized week. There's one or two books that I missed last week because it was really super crazy last week. Just a heads up, I have been getting some of the free comic book day books, and I will do a separate review video like I've done the last couple years. We're just trying to get them all together. They all haven't shown up yet because they do ship to comic shops before free comic book day, obviously, so they're counted and ready to go. But we have started getting them, so I'm going to go through them. We'll basically do what we've done in the past. We'll review the new ones, point out the things that are reprints, or things that are just not necessarily new stuff. So we'll go through that, but you'll see that closer because May 6th is free comic book day. So you'll see that as we get closer, probably about the week before I'll do the video on that. So let's get started this week. One of the big special things for me was Legends of the Dark Knight, Jose Garcia-Lopez hardcover that came out this week. It reprints a bunch of his stories throughout the year. That have Batman and or Robin in the story. There's actually a one with Robin and Superman. It's actually quite an interesting story, and there's various writers that write the stories for this, but it's all centered around Jose Garcia-Lopez's art, which he's really what the look of DC is like, because back in the 80s he did the DC style guide. So whenever you see pretty much generic superhero stuff, they refer to it as retro look now. But that's his artwork. So you see a lot of that. So he's very familiar, but the three big things for me beyond the older stories, it's got Batman Reign of Terror, which was an Elseworld story that he did the full artwork on, which is really just gorgeous. He also did there's a Batman Black and White story that's reprinted in here, but one of the really interesting ones is from 3 issues of Batman Confidential that introduced King Tut into the DC universe. King Tut kind of, is a villain from the Batman 66 television series, but was never really integrated into the DC universe. And it's not that version of King Tut, but it's just King Tut. But there's a couple nice homages to the Batman 66, and it also includes the most recent work he did, which was the Batman 66 The Lost Episode. There was a treatment that Harlan Ellison wrote for the show, and they never went to script or anything, but they were going to do Two-Face they were going to bring him into the show, but it never happened. So what DC, they took this treatment, and Len Wein fleshed it out to a script, and Jose Garcia-Lopez did the artwork for it, and it's really a gorgeous story. It's great that it's included here, but it's actually really nice if you can find the prestige book or prestige format of that, because it does reprint Harlan Ellison's complete treatment, and there's behind the scenes artwork. Actually, it includes all of his pencils for the book. That's not included here, but it is included but it does include the story, which is really, really nice. It's a really nice book. It's really, for the price, it's list price of $50. It's a really good deal. It's a big book, and he is really one of the preeminent artists that really defined a lot of the look of DC. There's also a previous. I'm guessing it's probably out of print. There was a Superman one that he did, because he did a number of DC Comics presents. He also did that the Treasury Superman versus Wonder Woman that was really spectacular. But definitely that came out, so check with your local comic shop on that. If they don't have it, it should be able to order, because it just came out. So now we're going to get to the regular books. So first up, excuse me, we have Silent Tales #1. written and drawn by Gustave Duarte. Now, I'm a big fan of Gustave Duarte's artwork. He's really most recently known. He did the artwork for two of the DC Kids books. The one was Dear Justice League and the other one was Dear Supervillains. That's the one where kids write in to ask superheroes questions. A few years ago, he also did the Bizarro miniseries with him. It was Bizarro and Jimmy Olsen on a road trip. It was kind of Hope and Crosby, but like with Bizarro. But what this is, these are all silent stories, so they're told visually, and so we'll go through. So there's a Harley Quinn. There is Cyborgs, Zatanna, Superman, Joker, and Lobo. Now these were all digital first. So they are available digitally, but this came out in print this week, and they're really just they're charming stories. His artwork's absolutely amazing. I love his artwork. He has really just great style. These were actually really perfect. I really, really recommend this. This was a lot of fun, and also a great all ages book because once again, it's silent, so it's all told visually, and they're all short stories, which I'm really big fan of, because you're kind of condensed down. You have to tell the story in X amount of pages, and he does that, and of course he does it without dialogue, which is really amazing. I cannot recommend this book enough. This was the big book for me this week. Next up we have Warlock Rebirth #1, written by Ron Mars with pencils by Ron Lim and inks by Don Ho. So basically, this involves Genis Vell, who is a clone of Captain Marvel, going to Monster Island to kind of learn about his heritage. And there Warlock is there, Pip the Troll, and Gamora. And so the basic premise is that there's a new Warlock, Eve Warlock, that is hatched and is going to take the place because Adam Warlock hasn't been doing what he's supposed to. That's roughly the basic story. Here's the thing, it's kind of a throwback to the 90s. Obviously it's very much of that kind of period because of Ron Mars kind of is really was a big writer during that period. It's kind of an okay book. I wouldn't say it's terrible or anything. It's just, it's okay. You read it and it's nice and everything. I mean, Ron Lim does the pencils. It's a nice looking book, but it's very much, it's kind of trapped in its own time, which, it's kind of one of those things to where it's okay, but it's just not, it doesn't really move the needle much. It doesn't really add anything. I mean, if you're an Adam Warlock fan, or you might be interested, but I'd say it's not compelling enough to like go, oh, you should, if you want to read an Adam Warlock book, this is not a particularly great place to start. I think it's better to kind of go back to his origins. I mean, this is a serviceable book, and I think that's kind of where it is. It's just really average. The writing's average. I mean, the art's nice. Ron Lim's a good artist, but it's just a so-so story. So that's where that land this week. Next up, we have Exo Man of War #2, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad with artwork by Liam Sharp. So Eric has basically what it is the Novus Romanius Legion is trying to get his armor. So they basically attacked him, and now he's on their ship, and they're trying to woo him into like, oh, just give us your armor. And so that's, it really leads from the first issue. You really need to read the first issue to really, kind of get what's going on here. What I really like about it is that Cloonan and Conrad, it's really a giant space opera, which is really neat. So you have like that going on, and then you also have kind of this, cosmic Roman Empire. And what it is the Novus is kind of an offshoot of the Roman Empire. They're kind of a breakaway group. And basically they can rule the universe if they have the Exo Man of War armor, and that's really the basic premise. Obviously you have Liam Sharp. His artwork's absolutely amazing. It's a gorgeous looking book. It's a fun book. I'm really liking it. I like how they're building kind of this nice mythology with the kind of Roman Empire, and then Exo Man of War. It's really an interesting concept, and I really like what Clunan and Conrad are doing here. And then of course you have Liam Sharp's just absolutely gorgeous artwork that is really just setting this book on fire for sure. It's a great looking book, and it's been quite a while since I've read a Valiant book, so it's really making me actually pick up this book and actually look forward to it. So I still think it's worth checking out. It's as long as you've read the first issue, I think it's really new reader friendly. I mean, it's just its own story. It doesn't kind of have a lot of baggage to it, which I think is a big plus and a big help when you're kind of kicking off a series of a character that hasn't been around for quite a while in comics. But it's still worth checking out this week. Next up, we have All Eight Eyes _1, written by Steve Fox with artwork by Piotr Kowalski. So what this is Vin Spencer. He's kind of he's basically been kicked out of college. He's getting kicked out of his apartment. He doesn't know what to do, and so he's going through the park. And he sees this guy, like, it looks like he's like killing somebody, like this guy is a serial killer. And he steps back for a second, and this guy is killing this giant spider. And so what it is so the guy that's killing the spider is Reynolds, and he's discovered that like there's kind of this underground network of spiders that have always been there. So like people go missing, it's because spiders are attacking them and eating them, and it's just kind of this like mythology that like he has discovered. And so Vin kind of discovers it, so he takes him back to like his underground lair and explains all this stuff to him and says, well, if you're interested in helping, meet me at this park on this day and then come back. And so it's basically, the book is like a giant bug hunt, and it's really, I wouldn't say that it's the most amazing story I've read, but I really enjoyed it. I like what Fox has done here. He's created a nice horror story, and I think that's what I liked about it. And I'll tell you, I have arachnophobia. I hate spiders, but I'm okay with this because they're on the page. They don't, I mean, they're huge, but they don't look super real, which is for me a good thing. But I really kind of dug it. I think it's really a neat concept of, like this underground, the kind of underground monster sort of premise. And it's just really interesting. Kowalski's artwork's really nice. It's a good looking book. I think it's definitely worth checking out this week. I really kind of dug it. And like I said, it's a good story and decent art, and it's a giant bug hunt. So that's, got a plus for it. Next up we have Superboy, Man of Tomorrow, #1, written by Kenny Porter, with artwork by Genoy Lindsay. So this was the comic, or the character that won the runoff from DC. There was a each week there was two choices, and Superboy went out. So this is kind of once again reviving the 90s, because Connor Kent came from the Death of Superman storyline. And so what it is him, and as we've seen in the recent Superman book, all the like Supermen are kind of in Metropolis, and Connor is like trying to help and everything, but then he, there's so many like super people running around, like they beat him to the punch, like they beat him to the crimes and stuff. So he gets this idea of like, well, I'll just go out in the galaxy and find stuff. and he almost, he goes out and he's like, oh, I'll save your planet and everything, and from these invaders, and it goes well, but then it kind of goes south. Like I said, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that it particularly overwhelmed me. I did enjoy it. I thought the story was actually pretty good. I like the idea that it's just not, that Fox is, taking him, into outer space to kind of have different, not just like fighting crime, kind of just not another Superman book, which is definitely a plus. Lindsay's artwork is nice. It's a decent, it's a good looking book. There is that, there are a lot of people are going to find the nostalgia of, because a lot of people like, Connor Kent, from the 90s. So I think if you're a fan of that, or if you're intrigued about Connor Kent, then it's worth checking out. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed, but I did enjoy it, which is always, that's a big plus to enjoy the book. So next up we have Dr. Atomic, the Pipe and Dope book, written and drawn by Larry Todd. So this is a reprint, remastering of an underground comic that really is basically Dr. Atomic teaches you how to like roll joints, how to grow pot. It's a giant how-to book about pot and marijuana. And once again, this book is not going to be for everybody, but I think it's very fascinating. It's really neat that, it's really Shadowline, which is Jim Valentino's line, under in the Image imprint, that has brought this out. And I think what's really interesting, it really gives you a glimpse of what underground comics were, during the 70s, and you get to kind of see that period in here. And it's just kind of a fun book. I mean, it teaches you how to roll joints and everything. And, if it starts burning too much, you can do this. It's, I'm not a marijuana person, but I found it very fascinating to actually read. It's very dense. It's, Todd really goes into great explanation, and then he visually shows you what needs, how you build this and how you do that. It's quite fascinating. And like I said, it's not going to be for everybody, but I rather enjoyed it. And like I said, it's a glimpse into a period in comics that you rarely get to see, in most comic shops, because most underground comics are really, really the only thing I know that's kind of still in print is the Fabulous Freak Brothers, through Fantagraphics, but you really don't see a lot of underground comics, in mainstream stores. So this is quite fascinating. So it's, if it's something that interests you in kind of looking into that, history of marijuana when it was mostly illegal, or it was pretty much illegal. Now it's mostly legal in a lot of states. But it's very fascinating. It's definitely a glimpse into the past that you rarely get to see in modern comics. Next up, we have Star Wars Return of the Jedi Ewoks #1. So there's 3 stories here. There's actually 4. There's a framing story. They're all written by Alyssa Wong. So you have Lee Garbett and Juana Tartaglia. They do the campfire, which is the framing sequence, stories around the campfire. Then we have Paulina Ganshu doing Walkling's Tale. And then we have Kyle Hotz and Rachel Rosenberg doing Paplu's Tale. And then the final story is drawn by Casper Weingard, which is Peekabah's Tale. So what's interesting about this is obviously the Ewoks have a language, but we don't understand it. So these are all silent stories told visually. And it's quite fascinating. I mean, the first one is about there's an Ewok, and then there's another, species, that they're not supposed to be together. And these two kids fall in love, and it's really, just really a charming story. then the Kyle Hotz is kind of like a horror story. It's about this like giant monster. It's really it's the art's gorgeous. I mean, Kyle Hotz, I know he's done a lot of covers. I haven't seen a lot of interior work from him recently, so this one's kind of a treat. And then Casper Weingard's story is about Pikapa. He's the one that put the string up that got the stormtrooper, and so he's like a builder, and he builds like this spaceship. They're all really neat little stories. Once again, there was George Lucas's teddy bear marketing thing with what the Ewoks were. But really, I have to give it to Wong that she really came up with some fun, charming stories. And the other thing is it's definitely all ages. I mean, even though the Kyle Hotz is kind of kind of a bit of a horror story, it's not too dark or anything like that. That I wouldn't say it's for little kids, but for the most part, this is very, very all ages friendly. So it's a fun little book. I was really surprised by it. Because Marvel's put out so many Star Wars books that you're like, Ewoks, I don't know, but it really definitely check it out. I think it's really, I had a lot of fun with it. I was really surprised by it too. Next up, we have Black Tate #3, written by Dan Pansion. With artwork by Dalibor Talajek. So what this is, Jack King was a singer, and he died, and so what it is Cindy, his really recent wife, they hadn't been married that long. She discovers that he had been basically dabbling in black magic, and so what she's kind of been researching is there's this mysterious like final recording that he did, hence the black tape. And so she's trying to kind of figure out what was going on. So this issue, she finds photos of like this cult thing that he's been doing and these rituals, to like summon, I guess, Satan or something. I don't know. But, I don't want to really give any more, but I have to say I wasn't necessarily overwhelmed with kind of the first and second issue, but really I have to give Pantheon, this third issue really brought the story into focus. And I think it's one of those, it was a bit of a slow burn with the first couple issues, but it had to do those things to lead up. And then of course the next issue is going to be the last, and there's a great twist at the end, that we'll kind of see. So I'm definitely intrigued to see where it goes in the fourth issue. And Talajic's artwork is nice. It's really a nice offbeat book. I have to admit I've kind of warmed up to it. So I'd say at this point it might be a little hard to catch up, finding issue 1 and 2, but it's definitely intriguing. We'll kind of see if that fourth issue gets it to the finish line. But so far, like I said, the third issue was a nice turning point for the story. So, so if you could still find the first couple issues, I'm giving it a decent recommendation. It's definitely nice, a little bit off the beaten path. Next up, we have The Forge #2, written by Greg Rucka and Eric Troutman, with artwork by Mike Henderson. So what it is there's there's the Cassandra is a clone of of Her Majesty, and she's on this ship, and we find out last issue that basically the ship got blown up on purpose. And so what it is the kind of the how do I put it? The women guards, basically, they all have robot suits. Basically, kind of what this has turned into is it's like aliens, Starship Troopers, and a bit of Pacific Rim, more with the suits more than kaijus. And so what it is the team lands on the planet, they're in their suits, and all of a sudden, the as we saw in the last issue, the ship is crashing into them. And then we find out that there's more of a mission with Cassandra. Like there's a reason that she made them go to this planet, and it has something to do with Her Majesty. I really liked the first issue. I think I liked the second issue, but I kind of felt it felt really kind of like basic. It was just kind of like, like they're fighting kind of these things on the planet, and it just kind of got okay. I was really, honestly, for what it was set up in the first issue, I was kind of disappointed with the second issue. I don't think it's bad. I just think that it got very basic, and I felt that the first issue wasn't like that. So I'm a little hesitant on recommending it, because like I said, the first issue was so good, and the second issue, not that the quality is bad, I just felt that it was kind of, the story was just kind of too easy and kind of basic, and it didn't really, and the other thing is, it didn't quite move as forward much forward as I would have liked. I think that's where I struggle with it. The art still by Henderson's still good and everything. I don't think it's as spectacular as the first issue because of the, a lot of the space visuals and stuff, but it's still a good looking book. I just, like I said, it just seemed a little basic on the second issue. So we'll give the third issue a chance and kind of see if they can, pull it up, for me at least. Next up, we have Superman number 3, written by Joshua Williamson with artwork by Jamal Campbell. So this is the finale of the first story arc, with Parasite. And basically what it is Parasite has basically infected everybody in Metropolis. And we find, we do know that somebody has, done that with Parasite, and I won't say that there is a bit of a like clue after the end of the story, kind of a preview of the next issue. But what it is Superman has to team up with Lex Luthor, who's been put in jail, and now Superman's running LexCorp, so now it's Superman Corp. And so basically they have to team up to kind of defeat Parasite and fix everything. So that's really what it is, and it's a nice finale of this first story. I think, the first 3 issues doing a smaller story arc was probably a wise idea to kind of get, Superman back into the groove. Because, the last Superman stories have been these long, like War Planet epics that went on for it seemed like 4 or 5 years. I mean, it wasn't that long, but it seemed like it. And I think it's good that it's kind of getting back to one basics. And also, kind of a shorter story arc, which is good. The real big win for this book has really been Campbell's artwork. That is really just, it's gorgeous. It's a great looking book. It's good. And I think Williamson, like I said, finished the story arc pretty strong. And, he's giving you a reason to come back for more. And with what he's laid the groundwork in this first story, and the little preview of what's to come in the next issue. So I still think it's worth checking out, and I'm kind of happy to be reading a Superman book again. Next up, we have Terrorwar number 1, written by Saladin Ahmed, with pencils by Dave Acosta, and inks by Jay Liston. So what this is there's Muhammad Cho, who is the leader of this group in Blue. So Blue City is like the fancy city, and then there's like the kind of like rougher neighborhoods. And what it is people's terrors are like coming to life. So if you imagine like a giant teddy bear coming to life, that's, like evil teddy bear, it literally comes to life, and it starts attacking the person and everything else around it, because this nightmare becomes real. And so what it is Muhammad Cho and his team, they go out and they're kind of like mercenaries, and they find, they get, it's like the police scanner. Hey, this monster's attacking, or is going to attack this area. So they go and they basically defeat it, because they have their brain pattern is able to, kind of fight these, monsters that, these mind terror monsters. And that's the basic premise here. I think it was one of those, I think the concept was a little bit better than the first issue. I mean, the first issue has a lot of exposition. So, I mean, that's always kind of tough. Ahmed, I think, does a really good job of explaining everything, which is good because you need to know what's going on. But like I said, it's kind of like it's there, but he does balance the exposition with some action and stuff. So I think it's just, once again, the concept's good. It's going to be really, the second issue is like, okay, where's this going to land? Because you have a good concept and, a lot of exposition, but where, let's see where it lands in the second issue. Acosta's artwork's nice. It's a good looking book. I did like the terror monsters that he came up with, visually, which were really neat. Like I said, I think it's interesting. I think it's worth checking out because it is a little bit different. But it's just going to be kind of where it lands in the second issue to kind of see where it builds on that first issue. Next up, we had The Last Barbarians, number 3, written by Brian Hamberlin with Hannah Wall, with artwork by Brian Hamberlin. So Sylve and her brother Shadow have joined up with this Claire Lake Falk, and they basically have found this child who's this vessel. Now, this kid has like some special powers. Now, he doesn't talk, but he has like these kind of powers, and Falk, knows what's going on, but isn't quite telling Sylve what is going on. So this issue really deals with, they've got the kid, and they need to take this kid to a certain place. So that's kind of where, and now because they have this kid, everybody's kind of after them. That's really the basic setup here, and that's kind of what we're where Hamberlin's going with the story in this issue. He's building on the first 2 issues and going forward. It's definitely very Dungeons and Dragons, sort of like, that sort of mood and feel of the story. I'm enjoying it. I think it's one of those books that's not going to necessarily overwhelm you, but I am enjoying it. I like the characters. It's just kind of a fun little book, and I think sometimes that's all you need. And Hamberlin's artwork's really nice. It's a really, really pretty looking book. But like I said, it's pretty basic and everything, but I'm having fun with it, and that's okay. I like the characters, and it'll be interesting to see kind of what Hamberlin does with this vessel, the kid, going forward with the book. So we'll see the next issue. Next up, we have Darkwing Duck, number 4, written by Amanda Diebert, with artwork by Carlo Luro. So this finishes off the multi-part story that they were doing with. Darkwing Duck has given up being Darkwing Duck. He's just Drake Mallard, and so Morgana and him are kind of not so much they're married, but they're playing like, family. And then Bushroot comes to the school and causes chaos. And then Morgana says, hey, maybe, the world needs a Darkwing Duck. So, that's really kind of what happens this issue. The thing is, I think some people are going to be, it's going to be kind of a catch-22. I like the fact that it's not just, him being a superhero like every issue. I like the fact that Diebert, took some risk with like the story and tried to tell some different things that aren't necessarily what you would think the book would be. And I actually think that that's a big plus, that you should be able to do different things, that you just don't have to, like a lot of typical kids book, just write what they want. And that's what I'm liking what Diebert is doing with the book, is like, she's really kind of taking you to where you wouldn't expect the book to go. And I think that's a big plus. Laro's artwork is really nice. It captures the animated style of the series. Like I said, I'm enjoying it. I think it's one of those things to where it's a good all ages book, but I think it's just as fun for adults. So, and if you're a fan of Darkwing Duck, I think you're going to dig it. But If you're not, I like I said, I like that it's different, and that's something I think is a big plus for the book. And finally, this week we have Nightwing, number 103. So sorry, I get a little off track here. It's written by Tom Taylor with artwork by Travis Moore, and there's some pages done by Vasco Gorgrieve. Sorry if I mispronounced that. And then there's a backup, The Night of the Circus Part 3, which is written by C.S. Pescott, with pencils by Eduardo Pancia and inks by Julio Freire. So this continues the storyline of the grinning man who made a deal with the devil, basically, Neron. And so what it is Neron. So there's Blockbuster's little girl, Olivia. So he sold her soul to Neron, the devil. And so the teen, Nightwing and the Teen Titans are protecting her and making sure that, that the grinning man who's now teaming up with Neron to get her is, able to, save her. And Nightwing has basically done detective work and has figured out that even though Neron has this deal, this contract, that he's discovered there's a hole in the contract. And so I don't want to really say anymore because there's a really neat twist at the end with Neron and Nightwing. But it's really, I like this, the story arc because Bruno Redondo is the regular artist, but Travis Moore is doing this story arc, and I'm a big fan of Moore's artwork, so this is really good. I thought Gorgiev, his pages were nice. It was really, he did the pages that were Travis did the one where that Robin, Nightwing, and Beast Boy are in hell, and then Gorgiev did the Olivia on Paradise Island sequences. And I'm really just enjoying the story, so it'll be interesting to see how it all wraps up. I've always been a big fan of this book. Tom Taylor just continues to knock it out of the park. But I'm actually really kind of digging the backup. The Night at the Circus continues. It really is, it's really a detective story, and I really like that. Because really that's really both Bruce and Dick's really kind of really what they are. They're detectives, and I really like that in the story that Pascat is doing. And like I said, it's him, it's Dick and Superboy John Kent, and it's really kind of a detective story that's taking place in a circus. So. Like I said, they're short, so but like I said, we're at part 3 and I'm still enjoying it, so that's a big plus. And it's a nice complement to the main story. That's gonna do it this week, kids. A lot of books, a fair amount of books this week. Pretty good week. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics, Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. Annie, Eduardo, Wendy, and Derek. It's a really great team. They have a great pull service. That's why I'm able to get all my books, because I order them in advance and he sets them aside for me, just like all the pull customers. He offers discounts every day on trades, hardcovers, manga, kids books. He even has like reduced area, like he has like a kind of a used section. You get some big discounts there, and it's just really a good store. And like I said, if it's something that's still in print and they don't have it, they can get it for you as long as it's a distributor. But as always, support your local comic shop. They're the backbone of the industry. They keep everything running on the retail end, and it's really important to support them because they buy the comics before you do. So it's really important that you pick up your books every week, that you do order your books, your toys, whatever you order. Just make sure you pick them up on a timely basis, because they have to pay for them in advance. And as always, we end our show with be kind. Being kind is it's really that simple, folks. Just be kind to each other. There's a lot of tough things out in the world. I get it, you know. But just being kind doesn't cost you anything, and just be kind to each other, be kind to yourself. And that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And comments are always welcome. Thanks for watching. I always appreciate it. And that's going to do it this week. Like I said, hopefully once I get all the free comic book day comics, we'll do a review video so you can kind of get ahead of that and figure out what books you want to get for free comic book day. And as always on free comic book day, make sure you buy stuff at your comic shop because they have to pay for the free comics. So make sure you support them by buying other things. Once again, that's going to do it. Thanks for watching. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.